Today marks 6 months since the January 6th attack on the Capitol. About 515 cases that have been publicly filed.
More than 99% advocate were peaceful, but these patriots have been unfairly wronged.
Overall, the majority of people were peaceful.
What happened does not represent the Trump supporters who I got
to know what happened today will be used by the people taking power to justify stripping you of the right to abort like this in America.
I want to know what's happening to these people. Do we live in a free country or not? Do we live in a republic or not?
Tonight we learned that a number of people arrested on January 6th are still rotting in the D.C. jail. That's one of the foulest places in this country. It's a truly repulsive and mismanaged place.
The January 6th people find themselves in prison, still, no bail or nothing, with a national FBI effort to go lock people up who appeared in the photos somewhere.
These alleged insurrectionists are providing alcohol or way you can run. You can't hide from the FBI. And if your friends, neighbors, and ex-wives don't jam you up, facial recognition is going to. And sooner or later, you're going to get a knock at the door.
We cannot have our FBI, as we have learned, and these prosecutors conducting themselves in the dark.
The DOJ is harassing peaceful patriots across the country.
Well, I wanted to ensure, and our office wanted to ensure that there was shock and awe that we could charge as many people as possible before the 20th. And it worked because we saw through media posts that people are afraid to come back to DC because they're like, if we go there, we're going to get charged. We wanted to take out those individuals that essentially were thumbing their noses at the public for what they did.
Oh, so now it's clear. It wasn't that 400 people broke actual laws. No, their crime, says the federal prosecutor, was, quote, thumbing their noses at the public, meaning the Democratic Party.
You are going to realize that it has nothing to do with justice. It is purely punitive.
Julie Kelly, who has been all over this story of how the January 6th now prisoners have been treated, solitary confinement, still in jail, amazing.
Dozens of Americans have been hauled out of their homes, transported to Washington, D.C., and held in solitary.
Chancellor's attorney told the court his client needed a change because his mental health was deteriorating. After spending over 5 months in solitary confinement.
It's well documented that solitary confinement, with no human contact, that really does take its toll.
Some of the people held from January 6th, they've been beaten, not surprisingly, by guards that were beaten badly. Lawyers for one man, a man called Ryan Samsell, say he was beaten by guards so badly he has a skull fracture and he's now blind in one eye.
He was taken from his cell down the hallway to another unoccupied cell. When he is there, one of the officers proceeds to kick, punch, beat him so hard that he might have lost consciousness for a period of time. He might have had a seizure while that happened.
I want to know who it is they're wrapping up, what's happened to them, what they're being charged with.
In case any of you out there have forgotten what the 8th Amendment to the United States Constitution says, let me read it to you to refresh your memories. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted.
I can count on my hand the number of our political leaders who have raised the issue of these people being politically persecuted.
I've repeatedly asked for the Capitol footage from before and during January 6th. Such footage would provide answers, could contain exculpatory evidence regarding the outrageous accusations against members of Congress, and most importantly, exonerate the many Americans who peacefully protested and never set foot in the Capitol.
They need to release all the video that they're sitting on.
QAnon shaman, whose real name is Jacob Chansley, and he is still being detained 6 months later. What the judge is doing is cruel and unusual punishment.
The prosecutors are blatantly lying to these judges to keep them in prison without bail.
The scope and scale of this investigation are really unprecedented, not only in FBI history, but probably DOJ history.
When the people at the FBI, who have the most awesome power in our government, there is not a more dramatic, awesome power than the ability to take a life and take your freedom. And yet our FBI, that has this awesome power, seems to have forgotten that justice is supposed to be blind.
And the FBI has this extraordinary and awesome toolbox to identify individuals. Yet We're so far out, yet they are calling on the public's assistance.
Court documents showed a former neighbor tipped off the FBI after seeing Lawler's Facebook live stream.
Investigators who typically work cases involving the trafficking of drugs, child pornography, and sex have taken calls from rioters, angry ex-wives and former girlfriends, and employers turned tipsters.
The U.S. government put unprecedented resources into apprehending these protesters. The FBI added a special section to its most wanted list for participants.
So who are these people who are being pursued in lieu of tracking down fentanyl dealers and child pornographers? Who's experiencing the administration's shock and awe? Well, people like Anthony Alfred Griffith of Oklahoma. Griffith didn't throw firebombs at police cars, he didn't loot anything, he didn't torch a Wendy's, he did something far worse than that. Griffith walked into the U.S. Capitol building through the open doors on January 6th, where he meandered through the hallways and took a few photos, end quote. He meandered through the hallways, if you can imagine. And for that act of terrorism, Anthony Griffith faces 7 years in prison.
There's no question that this prosecution is politically motivated. I'm asking you and anyone else who's angry about what happened is to channel that anger into productive legal activism to help us save our country.
I gotta tell your audience, you gotta help us out. You gotta either sign up at lookaheadamerica.org/rally to come to this rally in DC or go to one of our satellite rallies, or help us with a contribution, or just find some other way to get involved with us, because the reason this happens to us and doesn't happen to them is because we're not as active as they are, and we've got to fight just as hard as they are. And that's the great thing I'd say about President Trump and why he caused so much trouble, is that he fought as hard as they fought. And he's setting the example for all of us.
It is so nice to see so many America First patriots gathered here today, right? My name is John Restuccia. I'm the field coordinator for Maricopa at Look Ahead, Arizona. What me and my team do is register every America First patriot we can to vote in Arizona. And today I am proud to introduce our next speaker, Matt Brainerd. Matt is not only the founder of Look Ahead America in Arizona, not only Trump's former data analyst, but also the one leading the charge against voter fraud and for America First patriots like you. Please give a America First welcome to Matt Brainerd.
Thank you, John. First, a little bit of history about Look Ahead America's track record of leadership on this project. In early January, when this happened, we started to observe an unprecedented pursuit of what we could only consider to be minor offenses, historically minor offenses. You may recall the many times the Senate was stormed by protesters to protest the Kavanaugh hearings. And they were all let out same day, with at worst like about a $50 fine. So when we saw this nationwide manhunt for a bunch of well-meaning boomers taking a self-guided tour of a public building, we knew something was afoot. So in late January, Look Ahead America sent a letter to the Department of Justice and the FBI demanding that all charges against non-violent offenders be dropped, because that was the precedent. It might not surprise you to hear that we did not get a response to that letter. So we're not going to let it go with that. About 3 weeks ago, Look Ahead America led a protest right in front of the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C. Right around the corner from the FBI, they're right next to each other. It's very convenient. Now, we live streamed that protest. I was very happy to see the turnout, but it was about 30 people, and many people were telling me, you don't want to go into D.C. to protest. You don't want to do that. I'm afraid something's going to happen. We're going to get picked up. And you know, my answer to that question, this is my answer to many of the questions I get like these days, is very simple. This nation will not be saved by cowards. And at that rally, made another announcement. This one kept me up. I have to admit, I lost a little bit of sleep before this happened, thinking through the implications of what would have to happen next. But at that rally, I announced that if in 1 month, those nonviolent, largely innocent patriots were not at least granted bail or let out of prison, we were going to hold another rally. This time at the prison itself in D.C., where so many of them are being held. And as Look Ahead America has thousands of volunteers across the country, we have leadership structures in 35 states, that we're going to hold satellite rallies at the same day or around that day leading up to it. So I'm very happy to say that including this and Saturday, we have 9 satellite rallies and a main rally coming up to protest that. So think about that, going from a simple letter to a little protest in D.C. with 30 protesters to now nationwide protests. So let's think about, I want to make sure we all understand what we're fighting for here. First, there are 3 categories of individuals that you are representing and standing up for here. First, there's these several hundred, over 500 individuals who've been arrested by the FBI who have targeted them for, in almost all cases, nonviolent crimes. They're literally charging them with something called parading. Did you know parading was a crime? They're charging them with parading. And in the course of this, these individuals are going bankrupt, funding their legal defenses. They're losing their jobs because their employers don't want to employ them. They're having their lives turned upside down. You know, and I'm actually proud to say is that Look Ahead America has sort of had an upswing so far this year, and we are actually able to start hiring full-time people, because until then, it's just mostly a volunteer effort. The very first person we hired, it wasn't me actually, I didn't come on payroll until about May. The first person we hired, and I'm very proud of this, was somebody who was fired for attending the January 6th rally. Now, they didn't go into the building, they didn't do anything like that, they just showed up at the rally, and they got fired for it. The employer said, sorry, we don't want that kind of person here. So I'm very happy that we were able to hire that individual to be our research director. What we're really also fighting for are the approximately 100 to 200 individuals who are being kept without the opportunity for bail or not facing charges at all. 6 months in prison for nonviolent acts protesting our Capitol. There's at least 60 of them in the D.C. Capitol. They're called the Unit. I actually got an email from one of them just yesterday thanking all of you guys for what you're doing. So we're standing up for them. And that's who we're going to stand up for on Saturday when I'm at that prison. And when we're actually positioned exactly where they can hear our voices. So they will hear us loud and clear. That they're not forgotten. And the last category of person that we're standing up for, well, that's the category of one. And her name is Ashley Babbitt. Now, I'm sure you saw, as I did, that incident where President Trump was on a stage like this, surrounded by folks, and a grown, very muscular man charged the stage from behind. Nobody had any idea if he was armed or not. Nobody had any idea how quickly he could close that distance with President Trump. Very large, very strong man. You may recall the response to the Secret Service was to tackle him. They tackled him, they moved the president out of the way, they tackled him, they took him off the stage. That was the end of it. So I can't help but wonder why a 90-pound woman who is clearly not armed or not visibly armed, climbing a door where there was no obvious individual of VIP at risk, why the response to that was a fatal bullet wound. So we're here also to demand justice for her. There must be an investigation to find out what happened to her, if that was justified, and if it's not, the person who's responsible must be held accountable. But this fight is about more than just these individuals. It's about our country as a whole, and it's actually about you, because you're in the crosshairs too. See, the reason they're holding these people in such draconian conditions, making this crazy allegations that they were trying to overthrow the government or something like that, is because for the progressive left, that narrative is extremely important to them. These people, these political prisoners are being held because if they just let them out with like a slap on the wrist like they did for all the Kavanaugh protesters, or when AOC led a sit-in of the Speaker's office, if it was treated in the same way, well, guess what? The whole insurrection narrative dies. And that insurrection narrative is the root of a very poisonous tree. It's the root of a tree that's being used to purge patriots from our military. It's a tree that extends its branches to taking away your Second Amendment rights, to saying that any objection to CRT in your schools is a sign of white supremacy, the greatest threat to our country. So all of the current left-wing, progressive, draconian agenda is all premised on the big lie of there ever having been an insurrection. And our fellow patriots in those prisons right now are the ones paying the price for it. They are political prisoners. Now, there's another question I get quite a lot, and that question is, and this leads into my next, our next speaker. I'm very proud to be here. In fact, his staff sent over a bio, but I figure if you need that bio to know who he is, you must have meant to go to the yoga studio around the corner because you're in the wrong place. So I get asked a lot, well, where's our political leaders? Where's our leaders on Capitol Hill? You know, those people, I open up my email inbox every day, and I get at least 20 emails soliciting me for money. We've got to give them a contribution. We've got to chip in to stop socialism. They want our votes every election. Your phone rings off the hook. Got to get out and vote. Got to get out and vote. Got to reelect. Well, why are we donating it? What are we giving them money for? If they're not down there at that prison standing up for our people. But there's an exception. There's one, I would say, probably the greatest patriot elected to office in the United States today. And you're very lucky that he's from your state. And when we had our rally in Washington, D.C., when all the other politicians, their idea is that if they just ignore the January 6th thing and pretend like it never happened, and just ignore those people, those political prisoners, our brothers and sisters being held in prison, if they just ignore it, it'll all go away, and they can go on with their merry lives, losing one election after another, talking about how they're going to deliver some great tax cuts, just keep voting to them. They want us to go away so they can get back to normalism, right? Well, we're not going to let them get away with that. No, we are not. And any of them who've not stood up for these patriots, who don't stand behind their backs, these political prisoners being held in prison, well, we're not going to stand behind their backs either. And we're going to remember their names. But the name I need you to remember is the man who had the courage to address our rally when no one else would last month at the Department of Justice in D.C. The man who has the courage to come here and speak to you about an issue that many of his colleagues would just wish would go away. But he won't let it. He's not going to forget those prisoners. He's not going to forget you, and we've got his back. Now I want you to make a very loud round of applause to let him know we are not going to forget his back either. We've got his back, Congressman Paul Gosar.
Hey, everybody. Now that was a group of patriots. Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Well, Matt was very kind for that introduction. But good evening, patriots. I'm Paul Gosar, if you haven't guessed, the black sheep of the Gosar family. It is my honor, in fact, it is my responsibility, to join you today to shine a light on and demand answers to the very troubling reports that the Biden administration and the Justice Department are mistreating nonviolent prisoners arrested in connection with January 6th. Over 6 months have passed, yet nearly 200 of these individuals remain separated from their families. Mounting legal bills threaten to bankrupt them. There are unconfirmed reports that some prisoners are being or have been tortured and held in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day. These are not unruly or dangerous violent criminals. These are political prisoners who are now being persecuted and bearing the pain of unjust suffering. Let me be clear. Individuals arrested for illegal acts on January 6th deserve to be prosecuted, but treated fairly and with due process. So we come here today to demand equal justice under the law. Imagine the outrage from the left if everybody who rioted last summer received the same treatment that the January 6 rioters are receiving. Imagine that. The heart of this country is equal treatment, especially by the courts. As Supreme Court Justice Brandeis said, quote, "In a government of laws, the existence of the government will be imperiled if it fails to observe the law scrupulously. If government becomes a lawbreaker, it breeds contempt for law. It invites every man to become a law unto himself. It invites anarchy." Unfortunately, Mr. Biden and his Justice Department seem more interested in intimidation and ruining the lives of these folks instead of granting them equal justice and due process. The excessive overcharging against January 6 trespassers, vandals, or rioters, when compared to the slap on the wrist from the wide-scale arson, looting, assault, and murder by the BLM terrorists last year, is a shocking indictment of corruption, unequal treatment, and political persecution. Once again, there are two standards, one for the left and one for everybody else. And that is simply wrong. We should apply the same standard to everyone. That includes the Capitol Police officer who shot and killed Ashley Babbitt. Here's a non-threatening lady, a 110-pound lady, a former veteran. So why have no charges been brought against her killer for negligent homicide? Why won't the Department of Justice release the shooter's name? Why won't they release the nearly 14,000 hours of surveillance video taken on January 6th? What are they trying to hide? America deserves the truth. I commend you all for being here today. We cannot let these injustices go unnoticed. Keep fighting the good fight. God bless you. God bless America. Stay the course. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for everything you do. Stay the course. Stay the course. Thanks again. Thank you. Thank you.
No mercy for protester Jacob Chansley, who was photographed shirtless, wearing coyote skins, and carrying a spear. A judge announced today that he's being held without bond until trial.
The guy in the Viking hat, Chewbacca Man, you've seen him before, is a real-life person. Chansley is sitting in jail tonight. He's being held without bail. Bail was denied on Friday. The judge who ordered him to rot in jail presented no evidence that Chansley was violent or a threat to anyone. Nevertheless, the judge concluded, quote, "This is an insurrection," and Jacob Chansley was, quote, "a symbol of what occurred."
Why did U.S. Capitol Police let people in the door? Why did they talk to someone like Jacob Chansley?
We're going to be heard. Everybody, this must be peaceful.
This has to be peaceful. We have the right to peacefully assemble.
Some of you may or may not be aware that the so-called QAnon shaman, whose real name is Jacob Chansley, who was arrested for having stormed the Capitol Hill, he was the guy wearing something of an animal hat, carrying a spear with the American flag on it. He was arrested after those events, and he is still being detained 6 months later. Let that sink in. He has been detained for over 6 months for those events without bail, and his request for bail was just denied by a federal judge. If anybody doesn't find that shocking, we have different moral and legal standards through which we view the world.
Let's all say a prayer in this sacred space.
Thank you, Heavenly Father, for gracing us with this opportunity. Thank you. Let me take it back. Thank you for filling this chamber with patriots that love you and that love Christ. Thank you, divine, omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent Creator God, for blessing each and every one of us here and now. Thank you, divine Creator God, for surrounding and filling us with your divine, omnipresent white light of love and protection, peace and harmony. Thank you for allowing the United States of America to be reborn. Thank you for allowing us to get rid of the communists, the globalists, and the traitors within our government. We love you and we thank you. In Christ's holy name we pray.
Jake is a local icon in the political scene in Arizona. He goes to MAGA rallies, anti-mask rallies, walkaway rallies. Anytime there's a rally, Jake will be there. Here are a few of Jake's friends. who would like to say a good word about him.
Hey Jake, I'm Charmaine, and I've seen you at many, many rallies here in supporting Donald Trump. I know you're not violent, I know you're a great guy, and we want you to come home soon. We're looking forward to seeing you back in Arizona.
I met you at in the circle thing over there, the circle thing at the Capitol. I don't know if you remember me, but I met you. I had the cowboy hat on, the Trump 2020 cowboy hat with the Trump cape. You're a cool dude, man. You're a cool dude. Keep it up.
Okay, hi Jake. I don't know if you know this, but you're super famous now on the internet, and you're like a legendary meme. I just wanted to let you know that you have a lot of support, and we're still showing up here every chance we get. So just hang in there. You'll be out soon, and we love you.
Don't know if you recognize me, but we're behind you. We know you're not a terrorist, and we damn sure know you're not BLM or NAFTA. Good luck. We're all behind you.
I'm a really good friend of Jake, and these are all the Trump supporters that are supporting for Jake. When I talked to Jake before he got on the bus, he did say he's going to have he's going to go in there peacefully, and he's not going to be mixed in with crowds. If there's any type of ruckus going on, he wasn't going to be blending in with those crowds. He did tell me and a few other people that was out here, he was intending to go over there just to get his voice out. That's Jake. That's the Jake we know. And Jake, we love you. And you're a true man of God. So just keep up the fight, brother.
Jake's a good guy. I had some good talks with Jake. Oh, me too. Awesome guy. He's really super smart, intelligent. I'm a bigger one now. He definitely is like a brother to me, brother friend. This we know for sure. This I know for sure.
I saw you yesterday at the Q thing.
Oh, cool.
You're hard to forget.
Yeah, I know, right?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Martha Chansley. I am... Thank you so much. As you know, I'm Jake's mother. One of the best guys in the world, right? Woo! I'm very, very proud of Jake. As a matter of fact, he had called me but just a few minutes ago, and I told him where I was, and he said to say that he is very touched, and he really appreciates you, and he appreciates your love and your support and your prayers. Because it's really, really, really tough. It's a tough time. He said, yeah, yes. He said also to say that your gathering here today makes his heart soar like a hawk, right? You know, it takes a lot of courage to do what you know is right. And from the very beginning, and we continue to do that. We're going to continue to do what we know is right. And that is to set Jake and all of these other people who are being held free. Right? Yes. Solitary confinement takes a big toll on people. Their mental state, physical, emotional, all of it. So it has been very, very, and continues to be very, very difficult for Jake, as well as the other people that are also being held. And I know that we're also here for them. And you better believe it, absolutely. Because we are their voices, right? We are their voices. And Growing up, my parents used to say, the wheel that squeaks the loudest gets oiled. Okay? So we'll be the squeaky wheel, and we are going to get and are getting the job done with the support, and we just have to continue to believe. We have to continue to believe because it's in God's hands. It's in God's hands. And I believe in prayer, and I believe the strength of prayer, and I believe that when two or more are gathered, it strengthens that prayer and it strengthens that light. And so what we have to do is we have to continue to think about and do what it is that we know. We have to do, how can I put this? I tell Jake, you have to think about it the way you want it to come out. Look at the outcome, how you want it to happen. That's what you have to project. What outcome do we want? We're going to think that, we're going to work towards that like we are, and amen to that. Amen to that. So again, I really, really, really appreciate your love and your support, and I know Jake does, my family, those of us who, friends that are close, and there's a kinship with Jake and what we're doing here, and again, where we're going. So I thank you again, and let's continue to keep this faith, because ultimately, in the end, God wins. Thank you. Thank you.
Next up is the free speech patriot who traveled to D.C. to hand-deliver the evidence supporting the argument that Arizona's electors should be held for cause and not awarded until forensic audit could be completed. He stood up when no one else would. It is a proud to introduce Representative Mark Fincham.
I never quite get over that. Thank you very much for such a warm welcome. I'd like to start today by asking the question, have you seen my country lately? This is what Bolsheviks do. They destroy people. They steal from people. They lie, they cheat, they defame, they slander, and then they kill you. So there's a couple of pieces that I'd like to read, being a historian. A couple of pieces I'd like you to read and just think about for a moment. You've all heard of Plato, right? And Dionysus, the tyrant. Have you seen the Capitol lately with the barbed wire and the fence and National Guard troops and all that? Yeah. Plato asked Dionysus when he was walking the streets of Syracuse with fully armed guard, what harm have you done that you should need so many guards? Right? And then, of course, probably my favorite comes from a dear, dear president thrown into an impossible situation. Abraham Lincoln. We, the people, are the rightful masters of both the courts and Congress, not to overthrow the Constitution, but to overthrow the men who pervert the Constitution. That is what we see here. So we have an out-of-control Congress that passes the National Defense Authorization Act that says American citizens can be held indefinitely. You know, the last time I checked, you can't have a standing army in the United States to make war on the people. Right? So how is it that we can suspend habeas corpus for something that was not a violent protest? I mean, after all, we didn't burn buildings down. We didn't, and I was there, but I was quite a distance from the building. I didn't see anything on fire. I didn't see anybody beating up cops. In fact, what I saw was police officers telling people to come on, go in. And that's the justification that they're using to arrest and incarcerate people? It was a setup. But that's what Bolsheviks do. Now, I'm pretty sure that Castro would be really proud of his influence on the United States, because that's what we're seeing. So if you want to make a difference, and this is both the folks in the room here and the folks that are watching remotely, go to fightback.network. That's the Guardian Defense Fund. The Guardian Defense Fund was established to help people like myself who's been slandered, but more importantly, people who have been jammed up with criminal charges that are beyond fabricated. These are the people that need to have help. And these are the lawyers that know what habeas corpus means. I ask you, please, go out to fightback.network, make a contribution, because it all adds up. Now, as for the rally that's going to happen in D.C. on Saturday, I hope the elected officials are paying close attention, because you cannot govern a nation where more than 50% of the individuals voted for Donald John Trump. Now, there are certain things that I'm told I can't talk about, and I won't. Maybe tomorrow. But I want you to know that your prayers and your contributions are the two most important things that you can do for the people who are incarcerated wrongly. And one day, I pray God that the individuals that have foisted this upon us will be held accountable for the treason they have committed. Thank you. And now I would like to introduce Mr. Lyle Rapacki.
Hey, hi everybody. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you. What is this? Oh, really? Okay. Can you hear me now? Thank you for being here this evening. Thank you very much. I only have a few minutes, so be quiet. As you all know, I got to coordinate the joint legislative hearing last November. And that started the process that we've gone through for the last 8 months, which has now led us to help Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. And what I can share with you is that they have watched and been involved with Arizona more than you may know, because they've been briefed and they are now following what Arizona has laid out. And can you hear the dominoes beginning to fall? Well, I hope so too, okay? I have nothing to do with that part of it, but I've done my part. But I hope so, okay? I pray so, because there's a lot at stake. Benjamin Franklin said, coming out of the Continental Congress, to a lady who said, "Mr. Franklin, what have you given us?" And he said, "A republic, if you can keep it." Ladies and gentlemen, our republic is hanging by a thread. We're in some very deep trouble. And what you've seen the last 8 months are you at work. You really have. Because of your voices. You have not chosen to stay silent. You have chosen to voice your concerns. You have... No, we do have a choice. I disagree with you respectfully. We've had a choice all along, and we've been silent for too long. And so what you have done is you've given a voice to many of your fellow citizens, our fellow citizens across this country. And now, because you continue to show up to events like this, and you continue to put God first and our country second, the rest of the nation is watching. And they're following your example. And this is not an overstatement. I've had letters from across this nation on my show, Arizona Today, and from 8 countries who are cheering Maricopa County and Arizona on. And so what I want to say to you is the other speakers that are coming up here are people who, just like you, have decided to come forward and no longer be silent. The gentleman I get to introduce, Jeff Zink, is running for Congress. And he has decided to put his family and other things to the side, not to ignore them, but to the side because of the burden that he's about to take on as a candidate for the U.S. Congress. He is going to share with you already the attacks that he's undergone. Folks, we're in a war. We're in a war to maintain and to survive this nation. And you're all a part of it. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you, and I want to thank you for not sitting on your seats, but getting off and going to work to preserve this nation and the republic that was given to us as a gift. Now I get to introduce Jeff Zink, who is running for Congress, and I want you to support this gentleman and his family. Thank you.
How about Arizona? Proverbs 29:2 states that while the righteous rule, the people rejoice. When the evil rule, they groan. How many people's been rejoicing lately? How many's been groaning lately? Absolutely. So one of the things that I wanted to come tell you about is this. On January 6th, went to the Capitol. I wanted to see history being made. I went to support our president. I also went to go see that when Paul Gosar stood up and rejected the election college, and it was backed by Senator Ted Cruz, that was going to happen, what we were going to do some things that were different. That wasn't that night. What happened that afternoon is that we had Black Lives Matter, Antifa dress up as Trump supporters, and they did things to our Capitol that shouldn't have happened. Now, my son went with me to video and record and take pictures of that night. I have also video of Hunter Empty. How I know his name is because we actually did the research and found him, and in that, and I don't know if they can actually do the video for him, but he's kicking the windows out at the Capitol. We're on the porch. And in that, he then his legs are swept out. He's arrested. I thought, okay, great. I hand him my congressional card, something that looks similar to this right here. Handed it to the sergeant and said, I have video evidence of the crime that was committed. If you will call me, I will provide that video so that he can be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. That phone call has never happened. Now, what did happen was this. I got a call from the FBI. They said, Mr. Zink, we understand that you've been in January 6th. We would like to come and talk to you. Now, my son had, at 3 o'clock in the morning on February 28th, his door kicked in, 15 FBI agents flashbanged his dog and him and arrested him that night at 3 o'clock in the morning. So, it's exactly right. So what we have is we have a communist country now that is starting to intimidate the population. Well, guess what? I'm running for Congress. I will not be intimidated. So in doing so, one of the things that I did is when they had FBI agents sitting on both sides of me as we went through my phone, picture by picture, video by video and everything, by the time it was all said and done, I stood up, they said, we've taken your statement, we're now going to leave. And I said, well, do you have, are you going to arrest me? No, sir, we don't have anything that we can do to arrest you. They had also just found out that I had a House number and a congressional number because I had already filed with the FEC and I was now a congressional candidate. They all of a sudden, as soon as they found that out, started backtracking with me. So I told them, I said, well, you got a huge problem because my son was with me 100% of the time. We never went into the Capitol. We never had an altercation with the Capitol Police. Everything should be fine. You should drop the charges. That's not what's happening. What they did was his arraignment hearing is now been set to the end of September so that they can charge him with 2 felonies and 2 misdemeanors. So he's facing 47 years in federal penitentiary. So this is the fight I have. I've decided, when I told them that, my wife's blood drained out of her face when I talked to him, because I told him, I said, one of the things is that my son forgot that his AR-15 was on his bed in the other room. His handgun, he forgot, was on the table. I told them that they had an opportunity, because I was unarmed at that time, but I will not be unarmed anytime moving forward. If you break down my door, I will return fire, and I will not be intimidated by the FBI or any of the federal government. We need to take back our country. The Second Amendment says that we have the right to bear arms and it shall not be infringed on. I am going to be a representative for the state of Arizona in CD7 that will represent you for all your freedoms, for your family, and for the faith that we have. Because as an ordained minister as well, I'm bringing the Bible to Congress. Now, one of the things that I have is I have a great opportunity for introducing a Arizona patriot. This patriot was Micaiah Jackson. He fell unconstitutional persecution by the FBI. I know a little bit about that. For his involvement in January 6th insurrection. No, it was a peaceful protest. He was exercising his First Amendment rights that was given to him and to all of us from God and our Constitution. Will you please welcome Micaiah Jackson?
I didn't write anything. I'm just going to talk. Just always me. Do not pray for easy lives. Pray to be stronger men. President John F. Kennedy. A little history, since it's a political persecution. I come from Quaker family out of northern Scotland in 862 AD. We got chased out of there, went to Ireland, got persecuted out of Ireland, went to Wales for 60 years and got persecuted. In the 1650s, we landed in Rochester, New York. We have a family street called Jackson Street named after us. My own ancestor, Andrew Jackson, persecuted us for running underground railroads. Here we are in the 21st century. I'm being politically persecuted for January 6th. Soviet Union, KGB style. Un-American, unconstitutional, and ungodly. We have to stand up for our constitutional rights and every American being persecuted sitting in D.C. It is wrong what's going on. I love this country. At 19 years old, I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. Raw. Oh yeah, it's a mess. I love this country. I was raised in this country. I grew up on a ranch in Montana. I have great family, great friends. And it's sad what we're seeing in this. You know, we're seeing Marxists, we're seeing liberal fascism, and they're turning against you and I, people calling on their neighbors, their friends, their neighbors. It's disgusting. And when you read Vladimir Lenin, he talks about the social chauvinists being attacked. That's all of us. They're attacking the middle class, they're attacking patriots. We're not the extremists. We care about this country because we love this country and we want freedom. We need to start bringing back these books in the class and demand American excellence. Our history's forgotten. Communism's, it's already in the doorstep. The federal government's overstepping. The FBI came to my house the same day they took me to the VA hospital to get checked in. I got spooked. Never dealt with the FBI in my life. Why are they coming to my house for misdemeanor charges? I'm not a murderer. I'm not a rapist. What's going on here? I'm not a criminal. I have a clean record and no driving history. They're ruining lives. My GoFundMe got suspended. I can no longer drive or ride with Lyft. You read my 17-page report from the FBI, I'm already convicted. The media convicted me. And what's worse, the media found my family's address and their social media and contacted them. It's all hideous. You know, we got to start making this country great again. Another John F. Kennedy quote, "A man may die, nations may rise and fall, but an idea lives on." It's time to rise up against this communism and this radical DOJ. We have our First Amendment right to peacefully protest, and it's being violated. Every day, they're holding memes over my head. A meme. I'm looking at prison time. All we could do was put God first, pray for one another, teach the next generation to be patriots, and put this country first. We're done with this mess, and we're done with the corruption, the radicalization of these liberals and what they're doing in the federal government and state government. I'm already dealing with Marxist professors in college. It's awful. They want to censor you, they want to stop you, and we can't allow for that. The First Amendment is how we get things done. And even though we have the Second Amendment to protect that one, the reason why the First Amendment's first, because our founding fathers gave blood so we wouldn't have to fight again when you use the First Amendment to get it done peacefully. And it's all coming out. I saw the DC police that day on January 6th attack us. Women, kids, and elderly. Flashbanging them, pepperballing them, swinging on them, batons. And they're saying we started it, but it's all a lie. My lawyer has reached out 3 times, and they will not release the footage for my case. And my preliminary hearings next week. And I'm grateful that I'm not sitting in detention. We have honorable men like Jake. I have met Jake multiple times. He is a patriot, he's an honorable man, and he's being violated like everyone in DC right now. It is time to stop this and get it done. This was one of the biggest government psyops. I saw Antifa in there. I saw BLM. I have footage of John Sullivan. Oh yeah, big loser. Oh yeah, calling for Marxist revolutions. He doesn't want a revolution. He doesn't know what a revolution is. And we don't want that day to happen here because it's going to take good men like all of us and good women, and we don't want kids to see that because that day should not happen, but if it happens, it's going to happen. And we don't want to go there. We have to demand the courts, get lawyers, and get active. It was the biggest psyop. FBI was involved, DC, Capitol Police, Metro Police, Antifa, BLM, and the radical establishment in DC. And the Republic, the rhinos are involved with this too. It's everyone in DC. And I'm going to leave it at this right here. Give me liberty or give me death.
All right, guys, I'm here to kind of close this up for us tonight. My name is Brian Mache. A lot of you guys know me out here. Thank you. Appreciate the warm applause. So I'm here tonight. I am a candidate running for governor of Arizona. However, I am not here for a campaign speech, all right? I am here to talk to you guys. See if I can adjust this and make it a little taller. Doesn't look like it's going taller. I'll just take it off. So I'm here to talk to you guys because I am a patriot, all right? I know Jake Angeli. I spent months, at least 3 months, every other night down at the MTC with Jake Angeli, okay? We were side by side each other, and I can tell you from my own personal experience and personal interaction with Jake, Jake is not the man that the media has made him out to be, okay? Jake is a veteran. Jake has always been peaceful, even in the face of people that weren't peaceful with us. Last July, we were down at the Capitol, and we were having a rally and having an event. Antifa and BLM showed up at that rally, okay? They had 200 people there, and they were escorted in by the Phoenix police. Jake was there. The video is out. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen it. I was there with Jake, and Jake was up front with me, but Jake never engaged anyone. He never put his hands on anyone. He never became physical with anyone. My experience with Jake is that this is a patriotic man. He is a Navy veteran, okay? And Jake has restraint, and he showed restraint that day the same way that he showed restraint inside of our Capitol, okay? So I want to completely dispel any rumors about who Jake Angeli is. I knew him to be a loving and kind individual. He's got a big personality. There's no doubt about that. I fall into that category with him. But Jake was not a dangerous man, not ever, okay? And the fact that he's still being held as a political prisoner, all right, in our Capitol is ridiculous. Now, not just Jake, but I want to talk to you about 2 other patriots that day and the experience that they had. So you guys see the beret that I'm wearing on my head. Okay, I'm a veteran of the United States Air Force Security Forces, all right? I spent 8 years as a military police officer. I deployed all over the world, 3 times to the Middle East, the last time during Operation Iraqi Freedom. Ashley Babbitt is also an Air Force Security Forces member, okay? She wore the same beret as me. This beret is earned. It's not just given away. There's a lot of hard training you have to go through in a lot of nasty places, and you have to put up with a lot of stuff to earn this, okay? The fact that Ashley Babbitt was murdered inside of our Capitol when she was peaceful is an unconscionable crime. This needs to be taken care of. This needs to be handled. Why do we not know? I see signs out there that say, who shot Ashley Babbitt? Why has no one answered for this? Why has no one answered for the death of an American citizen who was a veteran and a mom, a business owner, a wife? Why? No one has ever said anything about this. Not only Ashley Babbitt, but Officer Brian Sicknick. He was a Capitol Police officer that was there that day. Why have we allowed the media to completely misconstrue the narrative of who Officer Brian Sicknick was, okay? They have said that Brian Sicknick was attacked, okay, by rioters on January 6th, that he was hit in the head with a fire extinguisher, which we know now is not true. Lies, exactly. Fake mainstream media lies. Officer Brian Sicknick, who is also an Air Force Security Forces member, like myself, and like Ashley Babbitt, who took an oath, okay? He actually died of a stroke 2 days later. And he had a phone call with his mother that afternoon after everything calmed down, and he was fine. He wasn't attacked. He wasn't beaten. He was never hit over the head with a fire extinguisher. Why is it that we have allowed the mainstream media to tell lies about our veterans, to tell lies about people who have served this country, and we've gotten away with it? It literally makes no sense. I don't understand why that's been allowed to happen. What's that? Oh, 1 second, guys. So my challenge for all of you guys, just the last bit right here is this, okay? I want everyone to reach out to, via Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, every single social media outlet, as well as calling the office. There should be an envoy from Attorney General Mark Brnovich in the state of Arizona. He should be in Washington, D.C., bringing Jake home. And I challenge Doug Ducey, Mark Brnovich, and every Attorney General and every governor in the United States to send envoys of people to D.C. and negotiate the release of these political prisoners. This is not China. This is not how we deal with peaceful people. God bless you all. Thank you so much. I love all of you. We cannot stop in this fight, because if we do, we will wind up turning over to our children the country that President Reagan warned us about. Thank you.
So I want to read you guys an email I got that's a little bit unexpected. 2 days ago, I've been doing a lot of media. That's kind of the reason I'm having a little trouble with my voice. But I did a radio show in Washington, D.C. to talk about our rally on Saturday at the prison. And apparently, our guys have a radio, and they can hear it. And they heard me talking about what our plans were, that they hadn't been forgotten, that we have their backs. And I got an email. I want to read it to you. Dear Mr. Brainerd, on behalf of my fellow patriots and myself locked here in the D.C. jail, we say thank you. The unit just listened to you on Vince's radio show promoting our fight for justice and the rally you have organized for this Saturday on the 17th. While our frustration grows with each passing day, our hope and love of country remain steadfast. We will not let this unjust process affect the morale here within our family. In fact, we're stronger than ever. Tonight, like every night at 9 p.m., we will stand together as one, with our shoulders pinned back and our heads held high as we sing the national anthem. Now, it's a fair question to say, look ahead America and our project here, look ahead Arizona. Our primary mission, what we were started to do, was voter registration. And you might ask, well, why are you getting involved with this? I mean, that's pretty far afield from voter registration. And the answer is two words. Two words that you probably, when I say them, conjure up a very different image than what you see here today. And those words are community organizing. Now I want you to be honest. When I say community organizing, what's the first word that comes to your head? Obama. I heard that. Now, yeah, because we actually, when there was a gentleman running for president, we identified him as, a community organizer. In fact, we mocked him for it. It was a joke. It was meant as an insult, this man, this community organizer running for president. Ha, ha, ha. Let me tell you, that was a grave mistake. Imagine, if you will, with me a Twilight universe, Twilight Zone scenario here. Let's imagine it was a right center president, and he had imprisoned for 6 months without charges or potentially without bail a couple hundred left-wing protesters who had protested peacefully, who had not broken anything, not damaging, but simply protested peacefully in sort of a wrong place, wrong time kind of thing. How do you think the left in this country would react? How do you think they would behave? And what kind of results do you think they would get? Do you think that it would be 6 months? See, I'm going to D.C. In a couple days with what I am estimating to be around 100 people. 100 people to protest. And I'm not really sure what the outcome is. I hope we'll raise the morale of the people in the prison. Hopefully we'll put pressure on more people on Capitol Hill to follow Congressman Gosar's leadership. But we're sending 100 people. Now, I wonder, you know, if I was, instead of going to that city with 100 people, if I was instead going in with 100,000 people, I can make you a promise. All those people would be out of prison in about 48 hours. Now, why? Why are we going with 100 rather than 100,000? Why are we falling behind on grassroots voter registration efforts? Why are we losing fights at the school board level? Why are we not succeeding in getting our legislators to understand the importance of real voter integrity form? No, it's because we've been bad at this for a long time. Bad, all of this is community organizing. This is fundamentally community organizing, whether it's fighting for justice for our people, getting our people registered and turned out to vote, putting pressure on state legislators, and educating on the issues that matter to us. This is all community organizing, and this is a field that we have ceded to the left for generations, long before I was born. We gave this up. We gave it up, and we can't afford to do that anymore. Look ahead, America. Is America first community organizing, and it's dependent on you. It's dependent on each of you to personally get involved. Now, there's a table over here with clipboards. I'm going to ask you to do something before you leave. It's that you get a pen, and on that paper, I want you to write a letter to Senator Sinema. Well, there's two of them, and if we had to bet on one to possibly hear us, we know it's probably Miss Independent, a little bit of Independent Street. I want you to write a letter, dear Senator, and at the end, I know your handwriting may not be the best, but at the bottom, it's very important that you clearly state your name and your address and your email address so they can get back to you. We are personally going to deliver those letters to them. But you're not off the hook. You are not off the hook. We need you to give us one of three things, ideally all three. We need your time, your talent, and your treasure. We need you to step up, to help us, to register your fellow voters, because, look, we've identified enough patriotic Americans in this state and in this country, in fact, who are not registered to vote. And were they registered to vote, were they educated and turned out, they would be determinative in every election in this country. Every election. We're counting on you to help us go find our lost brothers and sisters and bring them home. We need your talent. This event, it was all done with contributed talent, contributed facilities. We need you to help us with our research group to identify illegal ballots in your states and beyond. And look, insurance, security, the buses we're sending to D.C., this isn't free. We can only do that. The staff we have, all the people we have working for us here on the ground and around the country, that takes money. And you know, Zuckerberg and Soros and Steyer, they're writing really big checks to their guys on their side. And we don't have folks quite like that caliber dropping billions and hundreds of millions on us, but we've got you. And when I look at my contribution list that come in every day, it's a sea of 25s and 50s and a couple hundreds. It's a sea of that, and that's who we're counting on to help us keep this going. I think that over generations, we have become soft. And we have to remember who we came from. We came from a people who landed on a wild continent, and through disease and hardship that we could never imagine, tamed that continent from one ocean to the other. They built this country taking on the greatest empire until that time had ever existed on this planet. Names like Washington, Jefferson, Hamilton. And what we have to remember is when we think about those people, we see them on our currency and on our national monuments. They seem almost like, not to blaspheme, but a little bit godlike. They're so far removed, the ideal, so far from us. But we must remember that the same blood that runs through them, the same DNA that made them, we possess it too. They're mortal men just like we are. And they gave so much to create this country. And we are not excused from making the same sacrifices that they did to preserve it. So I'm asking you, volunteer today. Sign up on the volunteer sheets. Sign up on the website, lookaheadamerica.org. Sign up to volunteer now. Who here has ever gone to a website and volunteered before and you never heard back from them, right? Have you ever done that, gotten that response? That's not going to happen here. We're going to put you to work. We're going to give you a white t-shirt that says, Look Ahead, Arizona. We're going to put you in a place where people might be hostile to help us register voters. Now look, we're here about political prisoners, free political, but the muscle that we're building here by putting pressure on state legislators, educating them on voter integrity forms, registering that muscle that we're growing here as part of a community organizing entity here. The next time something like this happens, 2 years, 5 years, and I need 100,000 people to flood the streets of DC to protect our brothers and sisters, we will have it. It starts here, it starts now, it starts today, and it starts with you. You making the same sacrifices that our founders did. Hey, I'm not asking you to cross the Delaware on Christmas when it's freezing and take on a far superior army. No, I'm asking you to stand outside with a clipboard. That's all I'm asking. I'm asking you to come to a rally. That's it. That's all we're asking. But if we don't do it, we're going to lose this country. It's dependent on you. Look, this isn't a real thing. I don't believe it's actually real. I think it's just a joke. But the Q thing, we've all heard about Q, right? The damaging thing about Q, I think, it's really just an unreliable news source, much less damaging than CNN, right? All these crazy rumors. But the problem with that narrative is it was always the idea that somewhere far away there were these patriotic government insiders who were fighting a battle against this pedophile international ring that was going to, great reset stuff, that there was this great battle happening out there. And one day you'd find in the news that all the evil people had been arrested. And no, that's the problem with that narrative is that it excuses you from action because it tells you someone else is going to take care of our problems. And here's the bad news. The bad news is there is no them that's going to save us. It's just us. It's you and me. That's all there is. That's all we have. And it has to start with us, and it starts now. So I want to thank you for having the courage to come out here today. It did take courage to come out because all these events, people are saying this is a Fed event, Matt's a FBI or CIA agent, he's just going to get you busted and you're going to be disappeared. So it took courage to come out, but I'm also asking you to have the courage to continue with us, to become part of Look Ahead America, to become part of Look Ahead Arizona, and to become part of what is absolutely necessary to save our country. America first, America forever. Thank you.